welcome back to the Isn't That Rich podcast. I'm your host, Jill Franks, joined by my co-host, Ashley McVicker, and today we're talking all about small business lending. Now, it's not something we talk about often, but it does play a crucial role into our local economies. So we're excited to have a special guest on today to give us his expertise in that.
Yes, today we have our president of small business lending, Chris Healy. Chris is from Harrisburg, Illinois, and attended Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. Chris has been in banking for over 25 years and has specialized in small business lending since 2008. Chris started the SBA and USDA lending program for farmers in 2017, where we are now a preferred lender for the SBA, which is a big deal, and we'll talk about that later. Yeah. So I'm happy to welcome on Chris Healy.
Yeah, welcome,
Thank
Chris.
You. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I know I talked a little bit about you, but
Yeah, again, born and raised here in Southern Illinois. Have had some opportunities to serve all the people here in our communities, as well as get out and see a little bit more of the U.S. So I bring a wealth of knowledge, I think, back to our current customer base from all over the U.S.
yeah, I feel like you travel all the time, don't you?
We do. When we do projects that may not be in our local market, we one of our things is we must go see them. We see, feel, and touch it. So we're boots on the ground at all times. So
that's fun. Sounds like you have a really fun job.
It's okay. Yeah,
it's okay.
It's a lot of work.
I'm
a lot
sure.
of work. Everybody thinks travel is glamorous, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So what drew you to SBA lending and USDA lending and all of that good stuff, Chris?
I think it's kind of fell into it, so to speak. And the first part of my career in banking, I was an investment advisor. So I was looking, dealing with customers, working out plans for them, financially driven. Looked at a lot of the income statements and balance sheets of companies to invest people's money in. Had an opportunity to look at doing that in the lending aspect. Started as a credit analyst, and then paired that with my ability to help people, and kind of took off from there. So just kind of dumb luck, I guess.
Yeah, but all of that has really made you an expert in what you do.
I feel that. Yeah. I've got a lot of things to pull from, a lot of ways to help people. And again, it's all driven by helping customers. That's first and foremost at Farmers State Bank, is trying to find a way to help customers. We don't sell loans. We don't sell that. We help people with their dreams, basically.
Can you talk about how you brought the SBA and USDA lending to Farmers State Bank a little bit?
Yeah, when I started, I had been doing that at a different bank. Have known the ownership at Farmers State Bank my entire life. Had a good conversation. They were trying to focus more on that aspect. So I decided to make the move, come and start that. And when I started, I was a one-man show for a little bit, then started hiring an assistant. And then now we have a full team that's all we do is specialize in government guaranteed loans, either through the SBA or the USDA. A lot of people don't know that there's guaranteed business loans through the Department of Agriculture, but there's some great programs in both that we, again, use those tools to help our people either buy a business, expand their business, and try to live that American dream of being a small business owner.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll never forget. You came down to our house and we had a conversation in the kitchen when you just started, when I met you for the first time, Chris. So
absolutely.
Excited to have you on the team for sure.
So let's jump in. Why don't you tell us what small business lending is and how is it different maybe from traditional commercial lending?
Yeah, really, SBA and USDA lending is an offshoot of traditional commercial lending. It's a more specialized way of doing it. It allows us to help people where traditional lending stops due to parameters with collateral, cash flow, whether it might be a franchise. Sometimes commercial lending is a little more restrictive and has to fit in the box, so to speak. This lets us destroy the box, get out of it, and open up lending to all kinds of different aspects. So it's a way for the bank to help a lot more customers in their underserved communities and underserved markets.
Yeah, it's almost a way to get creative with lending.
It is. It's a way to help them where the risk level would be maybe too great without a guarantee from the government to help us offset taking that risk.
And so that's essentially the difference between commercial lending and SBA lending is the government helps offset that
They
risk.
help offset the risk. It's very similar. I call it's an insurance policy for the loan. We underwrite the loans. We do all the lifting. We service all the loans, and we just apply basically to the government. And if the loan should ever go bad, and we would have a loss after liquidating collateral and going through that process, we basically apply to the government for a loan loss share is basically what it is.
Gotcha.
Okay, so it reduces the risk a little
It
bit.
reduces the risk, and it's a great tool to help people that can't find a solution anywhere else.
Great. So why is access to small business lending so crucial to the communities and entrepreneurs around Southern Illinois?
It's not only Southern Illinois, but it's in the United States as a whole. I think the last study I saw, 99.5 or above of all businesses in the U.S. are small businesses. And of that group, it's almost 50% of all employment is with small businesses. So if you look at the communities, if you take out the mega corporations, this country thrives and survives on the backs of small businesses. Mm-hmm. They are the entrepreneurs that have taken that risk. They're hiring the people that bank with not only us, but with all the banks. So it is the lifeblood of the United States economy is the small business owner.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So what types of small businesses do you see utilizing SBA lending?
It's almost easier to say what doesn't qualify for small business lending.
Can you say that?
Yeah. Like with SBA, they have a few not-for-profits. It's weird that we don't support not-for-profits. It's SBA's for-profit business, but USDA does for not-for-profit businesses. So if it's in a rural community, and a rural community is defined for USDA as a population of 50,000 or below, that's a tool that we can use. Things that are kind of, I guess, sexually prurient in nature are not qualified for either one. Illegal activities, I know it's become popular that some states have legalized like marijuana and things surrounding that. But since these are federal programs, they're still not eligible for any aid in that market. So
anything that's not federally legal?
Is correct. Yeah, it's ineligible for that because, again, these are federally sponsored programs, not state sponsored. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. But for the most part, anything is there. We've helped a lot of people in franchises and anything in between. It's really a very robust, wide open program.
Yeah, I think I always thought it was like giant businesses or like, I don't know, a certain type of business maybe, but I guess it is. Like you said, 95% of the country is small businesses. So
it is small business, correct. That's what drives the local economies, the overall economy. I think it is the lifeblood.
Yeah,
definitely. So you talked about SBA loans and USDA loans. What are those the two main types of small business loans or SBA loans, or how do businesses decide which one is right for them?
It's not easy for them to understand. I think the most important thing is to find an expert. I feel we are experts not only in our communities, but if you look at some of the things we've done, we stack up nationwide against some of the biggest banks, the biggest suppliers of loans out there. And we do it right here in Southern Illinois. So we have that expertise, we have that experience, and we have the knowledge. We're always looking to go to conferences, gain more knowledge on how can we use these programs to help more and more people. So I think for the individual out there, there are resources, SBA.gov, USDA.gov. It has some resources, but the best thing to do is reach out. Again, we don't sell products, we sell solutions. So reach out to us. We ask the questions. We try to drive the bus, so to speak, and help those entrepreneurs, those small business owners start a business, grow a business, buy a business, whatever it may be. And we try to use these tools to help them achieve that final goal of theirs, which is usually success.
Well, you talk about, we're talking about this before the podcast, but how there's like some really big projects going on in Southern Illinois, and we've been contacted to do them because we're a preferred lender.
Absolutely.
And just talk about, how amazing it is that we have these big projects in Southern Illinois that people may not know about.
It is amazing. Without disclosing too much, we have had been approached by some people, actually even a few years ago, weren't really in the position that we could help them. They kind of struggled through, did a few things, but now they're taking the next growth phase. Came back to us and said, hey, we've kind of went through these things. Here's where we're at today. Would you guys look at a piece of this? We've got a big growth opportunity to help the population of Southern Illinois, but we can't find a lender that can do the whole thing. So would you guys look at taking a piece of this? So again, we sat down with the customer, analyzed it, and said, today you're in a different position than you were 2-3 years ago. Now we are in a position to help you. We're using a USDA program because this is a rural market to be able to help them go up and do, a $20+ million loan project is what we're looking at to
That's crazy.
Try to assist them with, when a lot of people don't understand that those loans are out there. And again, a lot of banks around here can't handle a $20 million loan all by themselves.
Yeah.
We use these programs to help mitigate the risk to be able to do that for these people.
So we mentioned preferred lender. Can you explain what that means and how you brought that to Farmers State Bank?
Yeah, preferred lender, basically you show the SBA that you have the experience, have the knowledge to not have to have them approve all of your loans. So once you have proven through your experience in doing enough loans where they're reviewing them and approving them, that you have the expertise to do it without them reviewing it first. It basically, they delegate the authority to us. So what that means for a customer is when you come to us, we know how the programs work. We know how to document it. We underwrite it. We do it. We document it. And we help close it without the need to go back to SBA, which could lead to a longer time frame to get a loan approval. So for us, being a preferred lender, simultaneously, when we approve it at our internal loan committee, that approval at SBA is delegated at the same time. So
it's much faster.
Much faster, much more efficient.
Process for sure.
I would want to be with a preferred lender.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Someone who knows what they're doing.
Not an unpreferred lender, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Well, and a non-preferred lender might not even know the options out there.
Right.
Where you can, like you said, evaluate it pretty quickly. And
again, when I started out doing this, I guarantee I caused pain for people because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But 14, 15 years later, we have honed the process in. We know what we're doing. We utilize software that digitizes the entire application process, drives it for these specific products, and just makes it super easy for us to communicate with customers so they always know where they stand in the loan process, what's needed, what's required, and can track it daily if they would want to log in and see exactly where it's at in the process. So
neat. Yeah. So I'm a business owner, or I want to start a small business, and I decide to apply for a loan. What do I need to do? Like, what should I do? Who do I talk to? Like, what is the process for applying for one of these loans?
The first step before you probably reach out to a lender is to make sure you've thought through your business. If it's something you've never done before, especially it's a brand new business for you, either you're acquiring it or you've got an idea to start a new business. You need to, before you come to a lender, vet that out, come up with some financial projections and justifications around it. What I see a lot is somebody has a great idea, but they really don't have an idea. Is it profitable? Is this a good idea for me? Is it even something that a bank would lend on? Kind of do that research before you come in. It does go a long way with a lender to see you do your homework and not come in kind of a hot mess and expecting the lender to basically do all that research for you. There are great tools out there. The small business development centers throughout all communities, especially in Southern Illinois. I think there's one through Southeastern Illinois College. There's one through SIU Carbondale. They're there to help you. If you have an idea, you can go to them. They will help you. They have all the tools to help you put together proper financial projections, business plans, so forth. It makes you a lot more bankable when you go to the lender, because you're put together and you have that all done. That goes a long way. It helps it, and it also helps get you into that business a lot faster because you're prepared and you have everything ready.
Yeah.
Besides maybe that common mistake, would you say there's anything else that you see that I guess is a common mistake that people do when they're applying for an SBA loan or a USDA loan?
Couple of the common misconceptions I see out there is people think, well, I can get an SBA loan and I don't have to put money down or anything like that. But that's not true. Even the SBA is really there for to help people. We can do loans without collateral, but that doesn't mean 100% financing. So people still have to have some kind of financial backing. You got to have some, we call it skin in the game.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, it's 10, 15, 20%. But the SBA will allow us to take that risk and usually do it on a longer amortization, which minimizes the payments. But again, there's not many programs out there that do 100% financing with no skin in the game. You got to have a good plan, and you got to have some capacity to help offset that risk. And usually if somebody's willing to go what we call all in, put all your money in, put all your assets in, we'll put all of ours in to help you with that dream. So,
yeah. And these loans are not just for new businesses. If you're an established business, you can still apply for these types of.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not only, it is there to help somebody with a startup business because that is probably the riskiest endeavor out there to start a new business from scratch. So they're there for that. But they're also there, like I mentioned, we help people grow all the time. They may have one location, they need to grow to a second or a third or something like that. And without these programs, maybe or maybe not that they are commercially bankable, with millions of dollars of assets and millions of dollars of cash sitting there. To do that, we're able to help them with these programs take that next phase on, whether it's the second location or the third. We do that all the time. So it's not only there for startup, it's there for business acquisition, business expansion, to help them, again, keep growing, keep hiring more employees, because that's what it's all about. The more people that we help, that means more employees in our communities, which helps every business out there. Yeah.
Would you tell somebody that's wanting to start a business or whatever they're wanting to do, would you tell them to go to the bank first and talk to a traditional commercial lender first? Is that always your recommendation?
I wouldn't say always. I would say find a lender that has skills at both. And then we can determine from what your project is, what your goals are, what the best way to achieve that is.
Right. Because I'm thinking about our bank, and like if someone went into Mike Hopkins, let's say commercial lender, if he was like, we probably should utilize an SBA loan for you, they would just pass it off to you, which I think is great that we have that all wrapped up within our bank.
We have built into our culture of helping the small business owner. A lot of banks, traditionally you ask, what do other banks do? There's a lot of banks that use SBA loan as a loan of last resort, so to speak, where we look at it as a way to help people. It could be the first thing that we do to start it. So not always do you have to go through and get denied for it. If you're working with a lender that has a great SBA, USDA department, along with strong commercial lending, we look at helping people. These are just tools. All of them are tools. It's not a product. We don't sell products. We sell solutions. And these are tools that we use to solve a problem.
That's great.
Yeah. So this kind of sounds like it's too good to be true for new businesses. So what's the catch with some of these loans? Is there more, as a business owner, is it, why would I do that versus traditional? I mean, is it going to be higher rates? Is it going to be more of a risk? What is the...
Usually it's higher risk, not always the cheapest around, but the SBA has been doing things last year as well as this year. They have waived fees for the small business owner for any loan under $1 million, which is huge. Wow. Larger loans still have some fees that are in there. It's an unfortunate part of life, but again, to help people, the fees usually aren't the most relevant thing. The interest rate's not the most relevant thing. if they are a smart business owner, they're looking at the value that they get of being able to own the business, and don't worry about, well, could I go potentially and look around for 6 months and find a loan that's a half percent cheaper? Maybe you can. But the opportunity cost of that is greater than that 0.5% that you're saving.
You've lost 6 months.
You've lost 6 months of owning that business, and what can you earn in that?
In 6 months,
it's huge.
You pay for that 0.5%. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not always saving money to save money, if that makes sense. Usually we help people do it. We do it very quickly. We're very efficient at it. If a loan can be done, we can recognize it very quickly. The average closing of an SBA loan from start to finish is usually less than 45 days.
Wow. That's really good.
So we pride ourselves from top to bottom. We don't have a lot of bureaucracy. We know what we're looking at. We analyze it very quickly. Our approval process, we're very flexible. We can, if it takes our board of directors, we can get on a Zoom call in today's world at a moment's notice, usually within 24 hours, review a loan and get it approved. So we keep the process moving. We're not rigid. We're not set in our ways. We're very flexible. We embrace technology to, again, get things done. We're not an impediment to the approval process. We speed it along.
That's great.
That's good.
So some business owners may feel very hesitant about taking out debt. I think like most people are. How do you manage that with a new customer? Or how do you manage maybe their expectations or their fears revolving around debt? Because some of these loans that you've done, I mean, are like you said, $20 million loans. Wow.
Yeah.
I had a hard time taking out a mortgage, which I know a mortgage doesn't make me money, but
True.
Yeah.
We always want to help them look at the amount of debt that is needed to the cash flow that it can generate.
right.
Unfortunately, the last couple of years, we have looked at a lot of businesses. A lot of people had great ideas and they're great businesses, but at the interest rate that the debt was costing with the way inflation was, it may have not made sense at that time. So we definitely help look at cash flow. We're a partner in it with them. We don't want to see someone take on too much debt at the wrong times to be able to make them fail. Yeah. So we always look at that, try to help them look at everything, maybe with a different perspective on it. So we're always that second set of eyes behind theirs. There's no substitution for doing your own research and your own financial projections, but we're always that second set of eyes to say, what if this or what if that? Maybe now's not the right time. Here's what we're seeing coming down the road. Maybe 6 months from now may be a better time to take on that debt. Yeah. So it's not always saying yes to a loan. It's sometimes saying no to a loan and being able to explain why it's a no can help save that business.
Right. Yeah. I'd rather have someone tell me no, and then maybe in a couple of years I can get a yes, and it's much better for me and for the
people don't like to be told
lending
no,
department.
But it's important to say no, but be able to explain why.
Right.
If I can't say yes and explain why it's a yes, or no and explain why it's a no, I have no business being in this industry. So we pride ourselves very much on telling them yes, and here's why it's a yes, or no, and here's why it's a no. And if it's a no, maybe here's some things to look at to help you get over the hump to a yes down the road.
Have you had people get really mad at you when you say no?
Surprisingly not.
No, that's good.
Because we tell them why. And usually math doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Right.
The math's not mathin'.
Math ain't mathin'.
Yeah.
I love to say that.
It's not an opinion and it's not personal. It's just helping people analyze the numbers maybe in a way that they're not looking at it. It's like, okay, great. This, I'm buying this and the collateral may say it's worth it, but the cash flow that can be generated off of that asset may not be worth it. And so we try to help people understand that. And you'd be amazed at the times that we've told people no, and they come back 2 or 3 months later, they say, I appreciate that. We walked away from that deal and we found something else. Now this one, based on your advice, makes sense now, and we've been able to do that deal.
Yeah, sometimes no is the best thing for a business owner to hear until they're in a better position. And a no today is not a no 6 months from now or a year from now. Like you said, with that instance we had, even here in Marion, like you visited that project and now it was a yes. So
yeah, 2 years ago, it was a no. We lost the business. Another lending institution helped them out, but now that they're ready to grow, they don't have the expertise or the tools to know how to keep them growing. So we've done that. I had another customer, years ago, a success story with small business lending. They were changing careers totally. Had been was in the military, left the military, went to work in the private sector. Wanted to get out of working for someone else, was basically working out of their garage. Truly, you hear that, working out of the garage. They really were working out of the garage. Started a totally internet-based business. Nobody knew how to try to help them. They were doing like $400,000 a year in sales, just needed some working capital to be able to buy more product to sell more. Nobody could figure out. We took a chance on them, and by the time they even outgrew us, they were doing, I think, $35 million in annual sales.
wow.
Oh my gosh.
Went from 400,000 to over 30 million in sales with the help of a small business loan, and then followed that up with other small business loans after that, and totally transformed their life. I think they ended up selling the business and walking away with, multi millions of dollars of profit for him and his family. It was a generational wealth builder.
Wow. I hope that happens to me.
Same, actually. So, Chris, the next 5 to 10 years, how is small business going to continue to evolve? Small business lending going to continue to evolve, rather?
We've seen a lot transform. When I started doing this was right in 2008. I started in the small business lending in some of the worst times that were there, 2008, 9, and 10, that were very bad. But then in the late teens, it got very, very good. We lived through COVID.
Many ebbs and flows.
Many ebbs and flows. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I can't predict what we're going to see, but we're going to see some wild things. We saw interest rates go up to some highs that none of us thought we would ever see again. But they did. They're starting to fall back down now. I think it's going to help the small business owners grow. It'll continue to ebb and flow. And I think the flexibility within these programs allow us to remain flexible, to help that small business owner. I see a lot of benefit with the politics around those programs. They are federally funded. They are set up and funded every year through the budgets, but they're getting more money to those programs, not less, because I think they do see the necessity to help small business in this country survive and thrive. So I see more help coming. I don't see less, but the flexibility of the programs and the knowledge that we have of how to help apply each situation within those tools, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah. This is irrelevant, but does the SBA loans and USDA loans, the rates go off of the Fed rates, or is it similar to mortgages, how it's more of like the bond market?
It's most of the traditional government lending hinges off of Wall Street Journal Prime. So Prime changes when the Fed changes. So as Prime went up, the rates went up. As Prime's falling, currently it's dropped about 0.75% over the last couple of months, and small businesses are seeing the benefit of that. So yeah, it does hinge off of what the government does and inflation directly, where, as you mentioned, mortgage rates are off of the treasury markets more or less. And it's a future speculative move where these rates tend to move after the impact has already been delivered out there, so to speak.
Okay.
Talking about rates, does an SBA loan or a USDA loan, when you're, when you've got it all ready for the customer, are they paying a fixed payment every month or an adjustable rate?
It can be both.
It can be both?
It can be both. Traditionally, again, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't elaborate on it. The USDA and SBA allow a bank to do longer amortizations. The other thing that it does, a lot of small businesses face this, as I've said, throughout history. When things get tough, banks want to call their loan, so to speak. With SBA and USDA, that's not an option for a lender. So that protects the individual. So if it's a 30-year loan, it's a 30-year term and 30-year amortization. The only way that you can lose your loan is if you don't make your payment. Whereas traditional banking, a lot of times they do what we call balloon notes. It's either a 3-year balloon or a 5-year, which means the bank has the opportunity to back out of the loan and choose to not renew it.
You can pop the balloon after 3 years, pretty much.
And then usually
you're out.
Yeah, usually, and it's not at the most opportune time for you as a small business owner when that happens. It's usually when things are the most challenging, when you don't need your bank to bail on you.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, that would be devastating if you were 5 years into your loan and you still needed it, and then a bank decided back out and you can't find another bank.
We have helped so many people over the years that have had that situation. Different industries go through different cycles.
Yeah.
And I've helped so many people that have said, Chris, I've never missed a payment to my bank, yet they're calling, they're not going to renew my loan. Now it's the tough time in my industry. What do I do?
Yeah.
Well, we have been able to use the SBA or USDA guarantee because it is at a riskier time, but help them get that and not lose their business. I could go on. We don't have enough time, but of the stories of helping people through those times where I've literally helped somebody close it within 2 weeks of them losing their business to a lender because they couldn't find another solution. We worked with them. We got it approved. We closed the loan, literally saving their business in some of the toughest times that we've ever seen in some very underserved communities when there was zero lending going on there from the local banks. And we stepped in and used these SBA and USDA loans to help them out. They consider us part of the family now.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's very fulfilling to see us helping that. But we've seen it over and over again. When times are great, lenders are throwing money everywhere. But when times start getting tough, you see lenders contract. We don't. We think fortunes are made in times of turmoil, and we want to help people grab onto that opportunity. So when it gets tough, we go forward, not back.
That's awesome.
That's so good. And how rewarding to see that too, to be able to actually help people, small businesses in our area where we're living. So,
yep.
You've given lots of great advice today. I feel like I've learned a lot. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, or entrepreneurs maybe with one piece of advice, what would you give them?
That's a tough question. Entrepreneurs, small business owners are a different breed.
Yeah.
They think differently than a lot of people. Like I said, it's 99+% of the population. They employ almost half of the population. And if it weren't for them thinking differently, where would we be? Who would we work for? I mean, we work for a small business owner.
Yeah.
And where would we be without that entrepreneurial spirit? So the one thing I would say is don't stop, keep going, find someone that is very knowledgeable and they'll help you achieve those dreams, achieve those thoughts, and do it in a manner that's responsible and that where everyone can survive and thrive.
Yeah.
That's so great.
So good. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, listeners, we'll see you next week.
So Jill, where do we go from here?
Be sure to check out our show notes for this episode, and also be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.